Hello everybody and welcome to the third snorkeling video from Scotland. Today's region is the northwest Highlands and we have only two spots so I can show them both separately. The first one being Dun right by Gairloch. A big part of this spot is a beautiful sandy beach where you can find moon jellyfish even in pretty shallow waters. And out in the open there are a few more jellyfish species drifting about. So for both of the ones I'm about to show you, Google tells me they're lion's mane jellyfish, but they are pretty obviously different species, so if any of you know better, please tell me in the comments, cause I just can't trust Google obviously. And just like in the other regions, there are some massive schools of sand eels to be found, also out in the open. And you can also find these fish just above the sand, makes sense because of their name, and they actually get their name because if they feel in danger they can bury in the sand like you can see right here. Now this one I actually tried to dig back out and for a second I thought I'd killed him, but here you can see him swimming away again, so he's all good. Now the more interesting part of this spot is a big rocky outcrop that you can snorkel around. Here you can find dog whelk snails as well as these beautiful red beadlet anemone, and we also found a different kind of white anemone. And while getting a close-up shot of the rocks, I managed to film these barnacles filtering nutrients out of the water. And this is what it looks like coming up from about 5 meters deep all the way up to the surface, and you can see all different kinds of beautiful underwater foliage like forest kelp, sea lettuce, serrated and bladderwrack, and probably even more species that I didn't name. And yet again there were quite a few of these common urchin around, and this one was so bright that my camera was not able to focus correctly. Now if the lighting had worked it would look kind of like this. This is the first region where we found quite a lot of starfish. On the rocks as well as deep down near the bottom, the common starfish were the species that we found the most. But another kind that looked much cooler was the spiny starfish. And of course the good old shore crab were running around on the rocks again, and here I managed to find one eating some bladderwrack. And just above it I found this white crab, which I think is still just a shore crab but with a different colour. Brown crab could also be found hiding on the rocks or eating some of the plants growing on them. And now for this one, I think it might just be another differently coloured shore crab, but if it is, then this is the only one we found with this sort of colour. And as always, you can find a few juvenile pollack and cod just by the rocks, and here I also found one trying to eat a moon jellyfish that had been beaten up pretty badly by the waves. And right next to the rocks there are these beautiful forest-like landscapes where you can also find small groups of juvenile pollack and cod. As well as quite a few of these very shy corkwing wrasse. But luckily I found a whole bunch of these at this spot, so I was still able to get some really good footage. And just like the way bigger ballan wrasse, these fish also come in lots of different colours. And yet again, the Mellon wrasse I just told you about were the biggest fish species we found at this spot, just like in all of the spots from all of the previous regions. But the Mellon wrasse still wasn't the coolest species we were able to find. I'd say that goes to the grey Gurnard, which we found just offshore right by the rocks on the sand. Now these are juvenile fish, they can get quite a bit bigger, and the coolest thing about these fish is that they have like sort of tiny legs coming out right behind their heads that you can see them walking around on the sand with. And here I also found some just on the rocks, and as you can see they can also swim. And the second spot is Boom Bay or Mellon Charles, and here we basically found the same stuff as in the spot before, so I'll go through that pretty quick. Here again there were quite a few moon jellyfish around and also different kinds of jellyfish. Yet again, please help me because Google is not. And we also found another giant school of sand eels. And a new fish for this specific region is the blenny, which we found in both regions before, so it's nice to know that they also live here. And there's a lot of sand in this spot as well, and that is also where I found 3 shore crabs fighting over a dead place, which is technically good news because it means that place also live here. But now for the actually interesting part of this spot, which is an abandoned World War II pier. Now the weather conditions, as you can tell, weren't great. Lots of wind, it was really cold, giant waves. So if you're not a very experienced snorkeler, I would not recommend going into the water under these weather conditions. You get a lot of water just into your snorkel. But for now, let's dive underneath the pier. So on the supports of this pier we were able to find quite a lot of common or blue mussels. And this is what you see if you look above the surface while you are snorkeling underneath the pier. And this was the point where I was thinking, it's not even worth snorkeling here because I wasn't seeing many fish at all, just a bunch of these mussels. But then I decided to dive down. There were a whole bunch of fish just down at the bottom, and we also managed to find some dead man's fingers on the supports again, as well as these plum-nose anemone. In general, there were a bunch of cool little critters just holding on to the supports of the pier, just like this shore crab. And here you can see a few pictures of these plum-nose anemone. And then we also managed to find the third species of starfish in this region, which is the common sunstar, and this thing is pretty big as well. And here you can yet again see all the different kinds of fish hiding underneath the pier. There were Mellon wrasse, corkwing wrasse, pollack, cod, and probably even more species that I didn't notice. And I'm pretty sure this would be even more interesting and beautiful if the weather had been better. And if you look closely here, you can see a fish just swimming away from me on the bottom of the ocean. And this is one of the fish that I was waiting for the entire Scotland trip. So I followed it for about like 20 meters just across the seafloor, and then it just stopped and I was able to dive down and confirm it is a dogfish or a cat shark. I think it used to be called dogfish and then it was changed to cat shark because it technically is shark. This is, to be specific, a small spotted cat shark, and it was pretty patient and allowed me to get some really good footage. And now that is it for the second to last region of our Scotland trip. The next video is probably coming this week, as my upload schedule isn't all that great. So until then.